Hey everybody, welcome back to another session on Shock Week. While Tom and Megan get some things together for their recording, I just wanted to give you a reminder. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. My team has assembled, I think, some really great resources that you're going to find of interest in your career in power systems engineering or anything in the electrical industry, whether you're specifying, planning, quoting jobs, pulling wire, installing receptacles, whatever your role is. I think there's something for you this week. Thanks for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell, and let us know your feedback. Get engaged with the dialogue. Chat up use the chat feature, use the comment feature. I will be watching the questions coming in and do what I can to respond. And I'm sure that others who are also subscribed to the channel, they may answer your question as well. Enjoy the programs and enjoy this discussion between Megan Hayes and Thomas Dimitrovich. See you later on this week. Well, I'm here with Megan Hayes from NEMA, and
we're here.
Where is here? This is in Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania.
You came to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And why did you come to Pittsburgh?
Because you wanted to see me.
No, I'm here for the Society for Standards Professionals annual conference, where the entirety of the standards ecosystem, from government to companies to standards developers, come together to have a few days of learning about standards and what's new and exciting.
Okay. So, SES, standardization. What was SES again?
It used to be the Society for, Standards Engineering Society.
Standards Engineering Society.
But then they realized that not all of us standards geeks are engineers, and so they had to get rid of the engineering part.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is my first, I don't have my tag with me, but I left it in the car. But this is my first one. So I love the way this worked because you educated me, right? So this is like, before we get there, who is Megan Hayes?
I am Megan Hayes, duh. No. I am NEMA's Vice President for Standards and Technical Services. I've been engaged in standards and conformity assessment for 24 years now.
24 years.
In telecommunications, consumer electronics, lighting, medical imaging, plastics, and now I oversee all of NEMA's technical work for all of the electrical industry.
Wow. That's a lot. And you have a lot of experience.
Too much, I think.
No, because I'll tell you what. So I first met you on NEMA Codes and Standards.
That's true.
And we were moving from Vince Bukowski, and Vince retired, and then you came in, and everybody was, oh no, we have to train another one. And then you said, no, I'm not trainable. I'm going to train you. And you helped us do things the right way. And you've been doing a great job. So,
I won't say the right way. I'll say a different way.
A different way. You're right.
What I've learned in my career is that if committees have done things the same way for a really long time, they have a hard time seeing the forest through the trees. And so for me to come in and say there's a better way to do this and have you guys all trust in that process has been so wonderful for me. And then to see how much more you guys can accomplish is amazing.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it is a breath of fresh air. But
Staff at NEMA sit on their board of directors, the Executive Standards Council, the Board of Standards Review, the Organizational Member Forum, the National Policy Advisory Group, the International Policy Advisory Group. We're heavily engaged in the United States National Committee to the IEC. We just hired Hei Cho as our Managing Director for International Standards.
Yep.
She is the Vice President Technical for the USNC. We have Joan Sterling, who is the Vice President for Conformity Assessment, on as a contractor for NEMA, and she's been great at giving us more conformity assessment information than we've had in the past. NEMA's involved all throughout NFPA,
Oh,
NUL
yeah.
standards and engagement, NECA, IAEI,
Oh, absolutely.
the International Code Council, the list goes on and on and on, because we realize that the electrical industry is bigger than just electrical manufacturers, and we have to work with our partners to make sure that the whole industry is trying to move in the same direction.
Yeah, that is so true. And I know everybody who's on my channel and involved with IAEI has seen Brian Holland and all the crew.
Brian
Right?
Bowman, Jack
That's right.
Lyons, Mike Stone, those
Yeah.
are our technical field reps. And if anybody has a question about code compliance or
Even products. You know, I've
products.
I've seen our NEMA reps step up to when there is like a use of NEMA products, because you know, it's one thing when it's an Eaton, a Schneider, or a GE, or a Passenseam, or whatever product it is. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to point you in the right direction. But sometimes it's not a manufacturer; it's more of a system issue.
Yeah.
And our NEMA field reps do a great job in helping the industry understand the overall and one voice for all of the manufacturers.
Yeah,
It's
100%. So,
absolutely, they do a great job. Very big.
yes, and they're always available to answer questions. I just built a house, and I can't tell you how many times I called one of the four of them on an issue in the middle of building my own personal house.
Absolutely right.
If I don't feel bad calling them on my personal stuff, you shouldn't feel bad calling them either.
That's right. And this is we talked about the this meeting that we're in here in Pittsburgh, the 2024 annual conference for the Society
Of standards
of
professionals.
Standard. Yes.
And the theme is bridging the gap, standardization for safety and innovation.
So, coming to this meeting, and you and I had chatted about it. You're like, "Are you going to be there?" And I'm like, "Well, I wasn't sure." So I joined the organization finally. And if you're in standards, you probably should join the organization.
And I'm going to tell you, it's so best kept secret is that it's cheap to join SES. What
Yes,
did it cost
is.
you, Tom? Like $200
$200 and
or
some
something?
dollars, $230 or whatever it was. It was not a big deal. But now this event here has given me again an opportunity to connect with different organizations, right? So we have UL Standards Engagement, AIA, the Aerospace
Industry
Association, and a few others.
NIST, the
NIST.
government regulators here, the
Yep.
Department of Homeland Security, National Institute of Standards and Technology, the Food and Drug Administration, the Environmental Protection Agency was here
That's
yesterday.
Right, yeah. Federal Drug Administration,
Yep.
FDA.
Food and Drug Administration.
Food and Drug. Not federal. Food.
Food and drug.
Yes.
And then, there are other companies here. So Boeing is here and Lockheed Martin, Eaton is here. I'm sure there are more that I'm forgetting because my brain is full of standards and innovation right now. But,
That's right. That's right.
But there are standards developers, the Consumer Technology Association. You mentioned UL Standards and Engagement, AIA, NEMA is obviously here, Amy is here. There's just so many other organizations where if your product is used in that application and you want to talk to somebody from the Aerospace Industry Association, it's really easy to do here.
Oh, absolutely. So all of these organizations and these types of events provide opportunities to network.
That is the number one reason I come to this event.
Absolutely right. Now, there's a lot of great technical content. There's a lot of great presenters and discussions.
Yes.
And there's more discussions out here that happen.
Yes.
But just like this is for like Eaton it's important from a manufacturer's perspective because all of the right organizations are here and I can learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot just talking to you, having time with you and others. But at IAEI meetings and at other meetings are opportunities to meet the Brian Hollands of the world, the Jack Lyonses of the world, and all of those individuals and build the relationships because once you have their contact information, when things arise, that person might not answer your question, but they'll get you to the right person.
Absolutely, 100%. And from a standards developing organization's point of view, having the network of other standards developers so that when you, my member, comes to me with a procedural question and I don't know the answer, Guess what I do?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
go to Carrie Harrisine from CTA or Teresa Ambrosius from AAFS
That's
or,
right.
somebody from ANSI. I use the network that I've built here to get an answer to the question and help my member out.
That is so. I call it my Rolodex, but people tell me it shows me my age, but it is like a Rolodex of contacts. You just build your contacts list, and you say when you have that question, you don't know. You're only as limited as the limited contact in your Rolodex.
The worst contact
Yeah,
in the Rolodex. Yeah.
you
No.
just phone a friend.
So, what was your favorite content from the conference?
I don't know if I had a favorite content. Of course, my favorite content was our CTO of Eaton presenting.
I can't believe you didn't come out with that right away.
Yes. I was like, I don't think I had it, but whoa, what a lead in. But yes, our chief technical officer, Michael Rogowski, did a presentation, and I think he did a great job. He had some good questions. There were some great questions.
Yes.
That's one thing. This is not a shy audience.
No.
They're not a shy
we are
audience.
not shy.
Yeah, but he touched on how products innovate and then standards are very critical from a safety perspective.
And I think from an innovation perspective too, right? He's talking about the um, energy transition, and as you start to think about all of these products beyond what we're focused on now, right?
Right.
Beyond the electric vehicle that's going to be on the road, beyond an electric range and a heat pump. He was talking about drones and electric airplanes.
Absolutely.
And I mean, all these things that I was like, oh, my hand was going to fall off. I was writing down so many notes as he was talking.
Yeah.
But that in order for all of those things to work together, we need codes and standards, right? For safety, but also for things like interoperability. And you don't want to create a new product that isn't going to work with all of the other products it needs to
Right.
work with. And that is where standards are critical.
Yes, and from the get-go. And I know we have this discussion internally, and I know many other people have the same discussion, that the sooner you get involved with the codes and standards on a product or initiative that you have, it may not even be a product. It could be that you are taking existing products and using them in the system in a different way to achieve a different goal.
Absolutely.
You've got to get codes and standards involved up front, because that will guide your decisions that you make.
Yeah.
And it may be that you say, look, this is the way it's going. The codes and standards are not yet aligned, so maybe you need to make codes and standards changes, which has happened, but they don't change overnight on a dime.
No, because you can't have that happen.
No, and you need engagement with the industry, engagement with the codes and the specific standards to make it happen.
I'll tell you, I can't choose one, but I have two other sessions from this week that I think your audience would appreciate. One was a session about the UN Sustainability Development Goals and how standards are playing a part in helping the world meet those goals. And it was endlessly fascinating to me to think about leveraging those goals to increase knowledge and understanding about standards development worldwide. And I think NEMA is definitely going to be taking a hard look at those 17 goals and figuring out how we communicate out to the world, how our industry is helping meet those goals, just by being us.
Because it's a global initiative.
And the electrical industry and the energy transition that we are helping to fuel and support is a huge part of those 17 goals. And we don't link them. We don't talk about that. And we should be. We should be screaming it from the rooftops. We are sustainable.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of actions and activities that we're taking from a codes and standards perspective, but also from a product development perspective that we're implementing that align with all of that.
Absolutely. So that's one thing that you all can look forward to from NEMA. And then the second thing was this session that we just did, which was about engagement in standards development. And look, I've been around a long time. I have heard since my very first standards meeting, like, there are too many gray hairs here. There's not enough young people. Yada, 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 yada. And I can't disagree with that sentiment. But I'll say I know that we're always going to get volunteers to participate because companies need to be engaged in standards. But I think right now it's more critical than ever for companies to be thinking about succession planning and how are they going to make sure that they can continue meaningful engagement and participation in these critical standards development
That's
activities.
a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Because, like you said, you had mentioned we had a discussion earlier about how we're trying to get other people more involved, and we're in leadership roles, and we're on certain committees. But then it's like, look, I need to pass the baton to
Yeah.
that next individual who's going to step up to the plate, and then we have to promote that type of activity
Yeah.
because otherwise it's the same cooks in the kitchen.
Right, exactly. And from my perspective as a leader within NEMA, it's not only about handing off the baton. One, it gets me some more time on my day to do other things that are
Yeah.
important for our members in our industry, but it also means that I'm giving an opportunity to
Yes.
somebody who otherwise wouldn't have gotten that if I sat in that position for the rest of my career.
No, you're absolutely right.
And to see the professional growth of my team is so important to me.
That's pretty cool. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else mentioned that the this organization had that same type of environment of, you know, they have the speeches. I'm looking in the audience and I see a lot of gray hair. And now I look around, there are a
Oh, it
lot of
is.
people. It is very diverse. It's very,
So
you,
I read somewhere that this year there were more than 40 first-time
yeah,
attendees at
I'm
this
one of them.
conference, which is huge. I
Yeah,
mean, can you imagine a conference about standards and you have more than 40 new people? Ugh, that
that's
makes
great.
me so happy. But
Absolutely.
it also means that this organization is doing something right if that many new people are interested in participating. And definitely there's a lot more diversity in age and gender and culture here than you might get at your average standards development table.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I can see it. I can see it. This looks like a very, I don't want to use the word a young organization. I want to say it's a very diverse organization with a lot of different age groups and, people from all over the country. I mean, there's people from globally here.
Yep,
You know,
Canada, Geneva.
Geneva.
Somebody from the
Yes.
IC is here, and
Yeah.
it's great to see. And I went to my first SES conference in 2010, so I'll let you do the math on how long ago that was. But it's definitely been so fun to watch this organization grow and change, and I'm excited about the future of SES. And it's one of those things I fight for every year is to be able to come to this conference.
So who do you think, knowing who SES is and knowing what the topics are, who do you think are the prime candidates? I mean, I'm obviously, and you said, look, you need to be here, and you explained what SES is, and you thought I should be involved, and I'm starting to come along.
Yeah,
I'm
sometimes
I'm
I'm
a
not
slow
wrong.
learner. I'm a slow learner, but I get it. I get it. I see the value in it. But who do you think would be prime for engagement in this type of a meeting?
So I think anybody that works for a standards developing organization would be my number one
NESDO.
candidate,
Okay.
right? But I also think that anybody that engages in codes or standards development or implementation, we call that conformity assessment most of the time. Like
Right.
if you're, an inspector and you rely on the National Electrical Code, which at its heart is a standard,
Right. Yeah, that's true.
to do your job. Don't you want to know more about how codes and standards are developed and what's the future in that's going to happen in codes and standards? I would think yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, if you are working for Eaton and are engaged in their codes and standards activities, isn't it great for you to come and be able to network with other industries, with other
Yeah.
individuals, to get some time to spend with your trade association staff that you wouldn't otherwise get to corner Hay and I for 40 minutes and
I
learn all
did.
about the USMC,
I
right?
did.
These are opportunities you don't get otherwise.
You're absolutely right.
And I think it's a worthwhile cause to want to fight for that kind of opportunity. So,
Yeah.
I'd love it if every code making panel rep from every organization came to at least
That's
one
a good point.
SES.
That's a good point. Now, as a member, outside of this meeting, as a member of SES, what other things?
So they do regular webinars on topics of import, and they can be things from like standards development procedures
Okay.
to issues that the entire community is and are facing. So, and then AI is a great example. We a lot of content on artificial intelligence. It's something that we're all sort of struggling with. What does it mean for us as an organization?
Yep.
How do we deploy or ban the use of AI in certain instances? But also, what does it mean for our members? As you are
Sure.
manufacturing things, how are you using AI, and how can we help guide you to ensure that you're not taking a step out of bounds?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing that they do is these webinars, and in the fall they have an innovation forum. It's a 2-day virtual conference. I think it's 4 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
and they go around a theme. I have it on good authority that this year's theme is the circular economy, which I think is also of import to everybody who manufactures something
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere for sale in Europe or anywhere, because sustainability is such a big issue right now. So you get to attend those and member discounts, but also their entire membership roster is available to you as a member behind their member firewall. So if you say, "Oh, what was that guy's name from AIA that I met?"
Right.
You just go and look it up in the
Boom.
number. Type in Aerospace Industries Association, and their whole roster will come up.
And that's the networking value.
The networking value is tremendous.
Very nice. Yes. I tell you what, in the Costa Standards world, you don't realize how important now. I mean, not just this Costa Standards world, just in any career.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in codes and standards, it's like a whole different beast, right? Because you just never know how those connections fit together.
Oh, absolutely. And navigate just the organization. We had a great discussion over here. I mean, it was like I felt like I was in a university, and I had two of the best professors sitting at the table, and I'm like,
Dr. Hay and Dr. Megan.
Dr. Hay, paging Dr. Hay and Dr. Megan. It was just phenomenal, and you get to a point where you're like, I don't even know what next question I need to ask, but at least now we have. It's all about relationships and being able to pick up the phone and know that the resources there. Yeah. And NEMA is I think NEMA. Well, we all use the NEMA publications, mm-hmm. right? Now NEMA is going through a reorganization.
A little, yeah.
A little bit. So, can you enlighten a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we are going to what we're now calling a matrixed approach. I'm going to giggle here because I feel like I've been through all of the approaches known to man, but I like this one,
Is it because there was a movie about it, The Matrix?
I've never seen the movie. I don't really watch movies, Tom. Okay. And Keanu Reeves is weird. There, I said it.
It's out there.
But what it means is NEMA has several core functions, right? Standards and technical work is one. Right. We have our business information services, NEMA Biz, that's another. We have regulatory work that we do on behalf of the industry. And we have like our government affairs, legislative work that we do on behalf of the industry. And before they were kind of 4 discrete things. Even if we were all working on the same product area, right, we didn't necessarily always talk with each other.
Gotcha.
And so now we're really trying to bring those together and have discussions strategically about, for X product area, if Y is the end goal, what are our best strategies to reach that? And sometimes that may be standards and technical work, right, and we'll take the lead. Sometimes it's regulatory and we can sort of step back, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But it also means that, internally, a lot of things are shifting around. Because with all of that matrixed approach, we also have gone from what I like to think of as kind of a bottom-up organization where product sections were really ruling the priorities, to layering on top of that a top-down from our board organization, where the board is giving us priorities for us to meet as well that are more horizontal in nature. So we're addressing issues like the supply chain, made in America, build America, buy America. Right. We're talking about things like artificial intelligence and the energy transition. Whereas I think 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, those topics may have been discussed within our halls, but our hands would have been tied and we wouldn't necessarily been able to work on them because we didn't have the funding for it.
Okay, so you reorganized to get more flexibility up top to be able to react to key industry changes that are
Yep.
going on in technologies.
Yep.
And so you can respond faster, both from a government perspective
Yeah, and a
and
technical
from a
perspective.
technical perspective. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So, Shock Week.
Shock Week.
Shock Week.
I still think you're mispronouncing shark.
So,
Are you from New York?
I'm from New York, from Boston. So, so Shock Week is all about electrical safety because May is.
Electrical Safety Month.
Everybody knows that. Who's anybody?
I was like that
knows.
needs jazz hands.
It does.
Electrical
It
Safety
does.
Month.
I should get Brett Brenner to do that.
Yes.
I got to come out to DC and bug him. But so May is Electrical Safety Month, and so all this week, because it's not this week now, but when I air, which I'll air this portion during that week. So this session will play one day during the week, and then hopefully tonight, if you're watching this now, tonight, hopefully I'll be going live to talk about what happened during the day. So NEMA and safety. So if you were going to say, I don't know, if you were going to go down a road of discussion from a NEMA perspective that aligned with electrical safety in the theme of Shock Week, what direction would you go? Where would you?
So I like to say NEMA's focus in life, what we do on a day-to-day basis is make sure that electric products and use of electricity is efficient and safe. That's it. That's as simple as I can make it for people. And it is in our best interest as the organization that represents the manufacturers and for every one of our manufacturers to make sure that we are putting our products that are safe. You don't want to hurt anybody.
Absolutely not. That'll kill technology really quick when you kill somebody. So you don't want to stop that progress.
What my focus is, the efficient part and the fact that it works is important. So I talk about interoperability. I talk about, parameters and requirements and performance. But at the end of the day, that's why NEMA invests so much of its resources in the National Electrical Code. That's why we're engaged with UL standards and engagement. That's why we're at the International Electrotechnical Commission.
That's right.
They're all organizations that are focused on safety standards for electrical products, and we want to make sure that we're there to help advance that mission.
Yeah, and you have the infrastructure. You've got the Brian Bowmans of the world, the Jack Lyons of the world, and all those crew and the Mike Stones of the world. Everybody working with the organizations, and we all work under that same umbrella of safety. And from a NEMA perspective, I sit at the table with Schneider, ABB, Pass and Seymour, Leviton, and everybody else. We all work for the same goals of increasing safety. We may not disagree. We may disagree on the journey and the direction that we get there, but we all have that same priority. Yes, and so NEMA helps the industry argue that out and come up with that direction.
You mean NEMA herds the cats?
Herds the cats that make the world go round. We are sometimes like cats. I mean, you just can't. But no, yeah. So NEMA's. So now NEMA puts resources out to the industry, right? Outside of the field rep program, there's also documents and standards.
Tons of them, almost 1,000. NEMA has
almost 1,000 standards
and technical documents that are relied upon in so many different ways.
So how are they developed?
Well, this sounds very exciting, but we all sit around a table and write out what we're thinking, and then they fight about the word and where the comma goes for 45 minutes, and then Codes and Standards approves it, and we publish.
End of story. Done. Mic drop. Cut scene. I love it.
But it is a consensus process, right? And if you know anything about Codes and Standards, you know that can be very painful.
But you have different sections, right? So you have a motor, you have controls, you have low voltage distribution.
We have 4 main sectors at NEMA now. We have utility, mobility, the built environment, and industrial/core. And all of the products that you can imagine are fit into those 4 sectors.
Right.
organized by product sections,
Yep.
and they develop standards within their scope. And then we have other, groups within NEMA that may address what I'll call a horizontal issue. So,
Yeah.
as an example, we have a guide on evaluating water damaged electrical equipment
That's right. Yeah. And that's across all products.
across all product areas.
And the most famous one for most of those who watch this channel, from an NFPA perspective especially, you have the reconditioned equipment document.
That's why I have so many gray hairs.
I know. I know. And reconditioning is getting a lot more attention in the code. I don't know.
Well, and I think if you think about it from a pure safety perspective, there are risks associated with reconditioning equipment and with the use of reconditioned equipment. And if you think about it from a sustainability perspective, reconditioned equipment can be an important part of any sustainability program.
That's true.
But you want to make sure that as you're saving the planet, you're not burning it down.
No, yeah, that's such a good point, because they would appear to be conflicting goals, because you would say, look, are you trying to drive people to just install new equipment? That's not necessarily true.
No.
Because we just want to, as
Many
an industry,
of our members recondition their own equipment.
That's exactly right. You just want to make sure it's done in a way that, to your point, is not going to burn down a structure or hurt somebody.
Right.
That is a good way to put that, because I was wondering where you were going to go. You said sustainability. I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right.
Tom's like ready to run.
yeah. But no, I mean, it is so.
But it's so important, because look, the other thing I talked about earlier, those UN SDGs, we are a sustainable industry, and we want to continue to be able to spread that message. But just because you're sustainable isn't enough. You also have to have safety involved there too. And so reconditioned equipment, I think, has a very important place in the industry, but we have to make sure that we're doing it right.
That's right. Yes. And the code is helping from a perspective of what can be installed
what the risk assessment says is a reasonable risk to take with reconditioned equipment and is allowed to be used, versus what the risk assessment says is not a reasonable risk to take and shouldn't be installed.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So you have, the code just says, look, this is what's permitted, this is what's not permitted. And if it is permitted, then you have to follow these rules from a labeling and how you do it, right? And then we also introduced a new term, servicing, right?
Yeah.
So we have some restrictions and rules around servicing. So we grow all of that. But then on the other side of that, when you are reconditioning, then there becomes the standardization on when I'm reconditioning something. What does it look like? And what are the procedures that I follow? And do I need to get third-party certification? And all
I
of that.
think that depends upon the product, right?
Exactly.
And so I think what's important to understand when we're talking about this reconditioning in specific is that some of these recommendations that NEMA is making, all of the recommendations that NEMA is making, are based upon a risk analysis that makes sense for that product.
Right. Yes, sir. He's going to the restroom.
He's going to the restroom. Poor Craig.
It's funny. Well, at least he trusts us enough.
I know.
Let's send some
I've got
emails.
his phone and his laptop.
I love this. I love it.
But yes, reconditioning is a big issue for our members. And again, it's not, I hear all the time the big bad industry, all they want to do is sell products. And then I get accused of being sort of wrapped up in that. And I'm like, look, my job is to make sure that you follow the procedures. I don't care about your bottom line.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But when I talk to my members about this kind of stuff, like, reconditioning is fine for so many products, and they don't want to turn off that flow because, again, their companies are looking at the sustainability front and being able to say that there's a circularity to the products that they're using. They can be reused and reused and reused. So if we're saying don't recondition something, it has nothing to do with selling more product. It has everything to do with the fear of, in the reconditioning process, messing something up in that equipment that would lead to a hazard, that would lead to loss of life or property.
Absolutely right. I couldn't say it better. And so you got reconditioning, that is a big initiative, or a document that cuts across everything. Another initiative that cuts across everything is the code adoption process.
Yes, code adoption is so important, though. I mean, like
Yeah.
how many hours are spent every 3 years updating the National Electrical Code?
A lot.
How many
and a lot of personal time too.
How many hours are spent every 3 years updating the International Energy Conservation Code?
There's a lot there
The
too.
International Building Code.
Absolutely.
The GBCC. I could go on.
On and on and on. Yes.
Right? These codes are the foundation of safety and efficiency in our country.
Yep.
And just producing them isn't enough.
That's right. Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And then you have a whole group of individuals who go state to state to state.
Yeah.
Who are at the table arguing and advocating for the
latest code. Because it's important.
Yeah, and it helps everybody. So it helps.
I mean, I'll tell you, I just said I built a new home, right? We just moved in 6 weeks ago. And I met with my electrician and I said, I know that Virginia is on the 2017 code until January. And then, we switched over to the 2020 code. I said, but the 2017 code isn't good enough for my house.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like I was crazy. So then I gave him a list of all of the code upgrades I want.
And I bet you got those from your field reps.
I might or might not have asked the field reps for some recommendations.
I love it. I love it.
But I did. I was like, I want an outdoor emergency disconnect.
Yeah.
I want, more AFCI protection.
Yeah.
I want more GFCI protection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to make sure that we have a dedicated 20 amp circuit in our bedroom because my husband has a CPAP and I don't want there to be any problems.
Oh, yeah. No,
none of these things I was asking for seem very extreme to me.
Yeah. And when you look at it, some of that is above and beyond the bare minimum code requirements,
But that was important.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And then on the energy front, I insisted that they run some throughways so that we could do future solar PV, future energy storage, and future EV charging.
Wow. For your brand new John Deere electric backhoe and front loader.
One day. I do drive the tractor around the property, so I could get an electric one eventually, maybe.
That was so we made a public input to create a new article in panel 11 for electrically driven equipment that is not an electric vehicle, but recognizes the fact that we have electric planes. We have golf carts are not covered by the NEC. The electric supply for a golf cart, the electric supply for farm equipment.
I have one of those.
So the charging equipment for all of these other things, if it's not an electric vehicle, which is defined as a vehicle that drives on the road, it is not covered by the NEC. So the 2026 code cycle is going to fix and plug that hole. And I'm very proud to say that that's going to.
Good.
The task group is met.
Because as you think about, we call it, and a lot of people in the standards will call it e-mobility, right?
Yes.
Because it encompasses more than just a car.
Absolutely.
We're talking about traction motors for trucks, both big and small. You talked about farm equipment.
Airplanes. We talked about airplanes earlier. Yep. Drones.
Unmanned is not the right word.
Unpiloted. Yeah. Because I'm a drone guy. I have a drone, and there's a license that you have to get.
There is a big brouhaha. They called it unmanned aircraft.
And, really?
And people got very upset. Because you're ignoring half of the population. So I had to remember what they called it. It's unpiloted, and I actually support inclusive language and standardization. So the brouhaha was worth it, people. I'm just saying.
I love it. I love it. So NEMA is at the front of safety.
And innovation.
And innovation. And making sure that the codes and standards align with all of the innovative solutions that the NEMA members are bringing to the market.
Or that we have a strategy to get there.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking now about bidirectional power flow with electric vehicles.
That's right.
And there's some needed performance standards and measurement standards that go along with that. There's also this entire code strategy that needs to be talked about. we can make that bidirectional power flow happen.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that it's safely installed and
You're right.
used?
You're right. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
And we
absolutely right.
can't ignore the safety because we're excited about the innovation.
That's right. And it has to be consistent across the United States, which is why consistent code adoption is so critical.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes. And then you look at a design engineer who has to say, I'm going to design a car charging system that's going to go in Washington, D.C., and also a car charging system that's going to go over in Virginia or over in California. And when they're on different versions of the code, it makes that engineer's life terrible. I mean, challenging because it's how do I keep up?
Yeah.
What is
absolutely.
required over here? And then you have local amendments that even makes life even more miserable for everybody.
Right. You know, and there are some cases where I think local amendments make sense depending
Yeah.
upon the environment, and I don't want to take away that
You're right.
ability. But I also feel like there are stakeholder groups that use the amendment process as a weapon
Yeah.
to get what they couldn't get in the code, or to take out what they couldn't take out from the code, and that makes me crazy because
Yeah.
NEMA would never do that. NEMA always advocates for adoption of the latest code,
Unamended.
period,
Yeah.
unamended.
Yeah,
Yes.
unamended. But if there's a jurisdiction, to your point, that says, look, we need these additional restrictions because
Yeah.
of where we're at in the country, because we get whatever more flooding, whatever reason, then hey,
Right.
we're game. It's good.
Right.
We're good
Right.
to go.
Absolutely.
But it's when you purposely try to remove things.
There are
Oh, yeah.
stakeholder groups out there that are out there arguing to take safety away from entire states,
That's the challenge.
populations.
That's the frustrating part for me.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if I lived in one of those states, I would be screaming.
Yeah.
Why
And-
would you do that? You're putting your population at risk.
Yeah, and it happens behind. I'm not going to say behind closed door. There are public meetings,
But it's
but you don't have the stakeholders.
what average person is really going to go and sit at a hearing about the adoption of an electrical code.
That's exactly right.
You know, I always joke, like when I think about, you know, the average person, like, would my mother do that? And I'm going to tell you right now, my mother probably can't spell NEC, let alone go to a code hearing about whether South Carolina is going to adopt it. Right.
You are exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity, and you know, I know many in the industry know NEMA because they see our reps. They are involved with codes and standards, and they see the NEMA individuals. They might be like, I represent NEMA on Code Panel 2. There are a lot of other people who represent NEMA as NEMA members.
Yes.
So NEMA's at the table, and their voice is respected in the industry.
Well, I'm glad for that. And if there's ever any question about a NEMA position and why we've taken it, then, you know, either talk to the NEMA rep or call me.
Putting her phone number in the
Right,
notes.
right across the screen.
Act now.
Blinking.
Act now. I love it. So, all right. We're going to do two things. We're going to just close this session, but I want to just have a quick discussion. It's eating over.
Okay.
All right. All right. So, Shock Week is about safety. NEMA is about safety. NEMA drives standards, drives standardization, and is involved with the electrical industry in many different fronts, even many that most don't even know about.
And think about joining SES.
And think about joining SES. Yes, today, act now. It's not.
We went down a tangent, but we were here about SES.
That's right. That's right. We are here about SES and how important it is to the standardization. And if you're involved with standards, so manufacturers, right?
Manufacturers.
SDOs, standardization development organizations.
Yes.
Development organizations. And even if you're involved from an inspector or installer, maintainer, anybody who's involved.
Participant in codes and standards.
Oh, yes. Anybody who's involved with codes and standards. If you sit on a code making panel, representing any organization.
Yeah.
So like NECA should be here.
NECA should be here. NECA develops standards.
IEC should be here. Independent Electrical Contractors
Yes.
Association should be here. IBEW there's a lot of IBEW members on here. The Electrical Training Alliance and Stafford's team and crew. All of these different organizations could be involved to understand the latest that's
What's coming down the pipe in standardization.
Yes.
What are the issues that we're facing? And quite frankly, how do we get above those hurdles, right?
Yeah.
And that's from a perspective of an SDO or a manufacturer
That's
or a
right.
participant in the process or
That's
an
right.
inspector. Like, we're all facing the same challenges, and we get together and talk about them. And I come out with so many new ideas about how NEMA can do things better.
I like it. Megan Hayes.
Megan Hayes,
Thank you.
you are what?
I
It was a
s-
pleasure, Tom Dmitrovich.
I have no idea how lucky all of you and how lucky I am. So thank you for taking the time for Shock Week.
Shock Week.
Yeah.
Electrical safety man.
I love it. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that program with Megan Hayes from NEMA. She's a great person, very knowledgeable individual, and the electrical industry is lucky to have a professional like her working on the electrical industry's behalf. So, Society for Standardization Professionals, the URL is for that website is on the screen. Check it out. Please consider in getting engaged with standardization with that organization. And hopefully I'll see you at the next annual meeting for the Society of Standardization Professionals. I hope you're enjoying Shock Week. Look forward to seeing you in the next session. Take care.